Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton, but we are not alone. We also have with us Chris DeJoseph and Chris Roach, two writers for Lucha Underground. The big interview is happening today. I am hyped as hell. Partner, how you feeling about it?
Oh, absolutely. This is I've definitely been excited about this ever since they approached us about doing it. And guys, we have a lot to talk about. So, Chris, I'm going to call Chris Roach. I'm just going to refer to you as Chris. DJ, I'm going to call you DJ. Hopefully that allows us to keep you guys separate with the same first name. How are you guys feeling about talking about some of this stuff that you haven't talked about in public before?
Hyped.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk about this. I'm excited to be on TWitWoW. This is amazing. Not to mention, I hope everybody pays very close attention, especially if you want to have some tickets to this weekend's final taping for season 4. And I'm telling you right now, it's crazy.
That's gonna be awesome.
But is it final taping also meaning Ultima Lucha 4?
You'll just have to wait and see.
They might be okay. So that's awesome. Well, that's great. All right, guys. We are going to be fielding some questions from chat much later on, but for now, let's just get right into the content. So first up, let's just go all the way back. Season 1. You guys had certain, let's just say, obstacles that you had to get over for very first episode of season 1. Can you talk about that?
Yes, we can. So season 1, DJ and I and Matt Stolman had worked on for a while, and then they went to go and tape the first episode, and we had to change everything, right, DJ?
Yeah, we had to pretty much throw everything out.
It was actually one thing I'll say about Lucha Underground when we've had to change creative, I feel like in the long run, it's usually worked in our favor. We've really made lemonade out of lemons. So the first episode, and I will say, of everything we're about to talk about, this was so long ago. I'm trying to even remember. But I mean, one of the big things was, I think, Phoenix, Pentagon, and Drago. We wanted to use them on the first episode, and they weren't available. Isn't that right, DJ?
Yeah, that's correct. They weren't able to come to the tapings, and we had to scramble at the last second to kind of put all the pieces in place for what we wanted to do.
Yeah, I think like the big thing is we weren't going to do Johnny Mundo versus Prince Puma on the first episode, and we were not. Yeah, and I think when we had to change everything around and all the talent wasn't available right away, we were like, okay, well, what's the bet? What can we do to make this show have the biggest impact? And we're like, well, let's just take the two best guys and put them in a match together. Let's not hold it. Let's just go for it. And it's great that we did, because it turned into almost like a 3-year story arc.
Wow, that's so the original plan for the first main event wasn't even Mundo Puma. I'm guessing you mentioned it involved Phoenix and Drago.
Do you remember, DJ, what the original main event was?
I'm not 100% sure, but I knew Drago was supposed to feud with Chavo. I remember that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Drago was supposed to feud with Chavo. I can't remember. I can't remember who Phoenix was supposed to have it. Maybe, God, I can't remember that totally. But I do remember that, and I remember we were still going to have the crew come and ruin everything. I'm pretty sure. That was always kind of the plan.
So that was unchanged, just the victim of the crew beatdown.
Yeah, you know, I almost think, were we going to save Johnny Mundo for the second episode? Like, yeah, I feel like we were going to show, which is so stupid. I feel like we were going to show a vignette or something for Johnny Mundo to like hype him for next week. And then I think we were like, what are we doing? Like, let's just put this guy, he's our star. What are we doing? And it's a good thing that happened.
Yeah, that's well. I think I mean, speaking on personal history, I think Johnny Mundo main eventing episode 1, giving him that permanent, like, really prominent position immediately. I think that was a big selling point for John and what got him as sold on the product as he was to start.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
I mean, I can tell you Prince Puma versus Johnny Mundo is one of my favorite rivalries, period. They are like a fight forever pair for me. I've said it many times on the podcast. So I'm very grateful that that became the plan because, yeah, that was a phenomenal main event and it would later become just an astounding rivalry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I think that match made people be like, oh, this show might be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the kind of nervous part. It's like that match itself, you know, we had that small storyline with Son of Havoc and Sexy Star in that match. And then the first one with Blue Demon and Chavo, which was kind of, I'm not really too sure about that one. But that Johnny Mundo Puma match pretty much, I think, put Lucha Underground on the map. And at least it was like, wow, this is different. This is really cool and really fun. But, you know, aside just from those kinds of things, I remember, I think Johnny Mundo, we like signed his deal like probably like 30 minutes before the show started taping, if I recall. That was how things went down.
And I also feel like Prince Puma Ricochet like the day before or something, right?
Yeah, and we even flew in Matt Stryker the day before to do the commentary.
Wow, that's crazy. So yeah, so episode 1 really did just kind of come together last minute. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's actually like it's like a miracle that Lucha Underground has become what it is because there's so many things that could have gone wrong. In fact, one other thing, you know, DJ and I both worked for WWE. DJ a lot longer than I did, but that's where we originally met. So you know, before Lucha Underground, there was never really a different way about thinking about wrestling, and I feel like we wanted to do something different, but in the beginning we weren't quite sure how different, and like we were even like originally sort of writing vignettes, not quite like WWE. They were still more cinematic, but not as cinematic as they ended up being. And I even think we shot a few that we threw away just because they were not up to the standard that like Robert Rodriguez and El Rey, you know, and Mark Burnett and all those people wanted. And so
did they almost feel too WWE at the time?
What do you think, DJ? I mean,
I think they felt like a really bad soap opera.
Yeah, they were kind of they were somewhere between our vignettes, how they are our cinematics, and WWE. If our cinematics and WWE backstage segments had a love child, it would be our first stab at vignettes that never made air.
Oh man.
Well, wow. we did some things to them where like the guys had like comic book lower thirds and stuff like that when they would come on. They did a bunch of things to try to save them, but it just really didn't work. I know, and I remember like Blue Demon was in one, and he was saying something about a dog going to fetch, and it just did not work. It was one of the worst vignettes I've ever seen. That, you know, it just. You know, those are the kinds of things, you know, we were in trying to create the show and figure things out that we realized. And it wasn't until we saw Skip Chase's version of the Prince Puma vignettes, which we knew that we were going to air.
Yeah.
That we saw that style and we're like, God, we should do the whole show like that.
Yes. I'm so glad you made that decision.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are too.
Yeah, I bet. But yeah, you know, it's actually kind of funny. You guys mentioned you were both writers for the WWE, and I think Stolman was too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's off topic, but I just think it's funny when people immediately jump to blame the writers for what they consider to be a bad product when you guys were around and a lot of your ideas didn't even make the cut, even if they would have been amazing. So I think that's just kind of a little bit of insight on maybe don't 100% blame the writers every time because a lot of other different elements affect what ends up on TV and what doesn't.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, especially WWE. I mean,
right.
You know, DJ has.
I mean,
way
you
more.
Guys basically have complete creative control in Lucha Underground, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah,
for the most part.
I mean, you know, there's. It's basically our story. Obviously, we have to run everything by,
right.
You know, and Eric Van Wagner won't let us put something stupid on the air. He's stopped us from that, and you know, they have a brand, and they, you know,
yeah.
but But yeah, I mean, it's been great. The creative freedom we have on Lucha Underground is something I always dreamed about, and something that could never happen at WWE.
Yeah, never.
Nice.
Yeah, I think
Right.
I think we have. Sorry to interrupt, but we just get we have a little more. They have some trust and faith in us, and to kind of execute that vision and kind of like Robert's version of
right.
professional wrestling, which is really fun.
And I think you've proven them right to have that trust.
Yeah.
Right.
And by the way, the one thing I will say, as far as the creative vision of the show, as DJ mentioned, Skip, who directs everything. I mean, that guy, I think we could say his vision has just helped shape everything, because we'll write scenes and then we see, he shoots it and it's like, oh my God, that is way cooler than I even imagined in my head.
Oh, wow. Okay. I thought you were going to say like, it looks exactly how we imagine it in our head, but you're saying it looks even cooler. That's awesome.
I would say even cooler. Don't you agree, DJ?
100%.
Yeah. I mean, that guy's a genius.
Wow.
And just the whole El Rey network and Robert Rodriguez's influence, it just helped give the show such a cool edge to it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So something else that was starting to get the seeds planted in season 1, I want to say episode 5 was the first seed planted, maybe 3. I don't even remember the exact number. Matanza, the monster Matanza Cueto. But from what I understand, he didn't turn out exactly the way you guys originally planned him to turn out. So what was going on there?
Well, one, he turned out way better.
Yeah, Jeff Cobb, my lord.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the biggest thing is, Matanza didn't debut till I think it was like episode 11 of season 2.
It was 9. Episode 9.
Episode 9. Yeah. Episode 9 of season. Yeah. We wanted him to debut, I think, episode 11 of season 1 originally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 9 or 11, one of the two.
Yeah, maybe it was 9. Was it like the week after Aztec Warfare?
That would have been 10
or something? Yeah, something like that. I can't exactly remember, but
that was when Cage debuted.
Yeah. We realized we were like, we could milk this Matanza thing for a lot more than just, having him debut. Yeah.
Plus we were trying to find the right fit for it. At one point we had considered Hernandez for the role. And then once we had Jeff, because Jeff had a WWE tryout, so it was like he wanted to do that. And then I'd been in communication with him. I'm like, hey, if that doesn't work out, like the door is open for you. Yeah. And then he gave us a call and was like, hey, is that offer still available? And then Jeff came, and we worked him as in dark matches as Jeff Cobb over and over and over again and every time try to get him to get into this kind of create this character without the audience knowing that we were creating the character, getting him to wrestle a certain way, to do certain things, to behave a certain way, until we were finally ready to designing the costume at the same time, everything kind of coming into shape as we kind of figured out. I think the first few times you see like Matanza's in the cage, it was just like a stage manager or something, a big guy who was on set who would just stand in there.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So was Cobb the sort of, once you kind of him, were you planning on him being Matanza pretty much from that point?
Well, no, I mean, we had Hernandez on from the beginning, right. But he didn't debut on TV until, I don't know, the middle of the season. And I think once we realized we wanted to pump the brakes on Matanza and maybe hold him till the end of the season or next season, we were like, we have Hernandez, who has done TV, can just come on and be a good opponent to Puma or a good character as Hernandez, because he does that character well. So I think we were like, why don't we get him on TV and help fill out matches? And I think it was Eric, or was it you, DJ, who we had Cobb and we knew we wanted to do something big with him, and either Eric or DJ, I can't remember, was like, he should be Matanza. And we were like, that's very interesting. And then from that point on, I think we decided to go that way.
And I love the reveal too, because there were a lot of murmurs on the internet like, oh, Matanza, he's not going to be that intimidating. He's only 5'10". And then you see him and it's like, wait, he might be 10, but he's still a freaking monster.
Yeah, I think that's what sort of, you know, and I credit DeJoseph for the sort of brilliant thing of like, let's not just do what's always been done. It doesn't have to be Kane coming out. Like a monster doesn't, I mean, this is a horrible analogy, but like Chucky in the Child's Play movie, he's a monster even though he's a little doll.
Right.
Like a monster can be anything. And Cobb, I mean, I do think next to most of our roster anyway, but when he goes, that's a guy to be scared of, you know?
Absolutely. I think he has such a presence, you know, and I think the debut, you know, when you finally unleashed Cobb, you know, to the world, you know, as Matanza went so well and he was so dominant and just an instant believability to me. So, yeah, I definitely think things worked out for the best in the end with that.
I mean, DJ, were you ever nervous about the Matanza debut?
Yeah, a lot. But once we started doing it, and then we kind of started to, we're waiting out and saying, God, I hope it works when he finally does come out. And once we did that big reveal, I think it was in season 2 when we finally, or at the end of season 1 in the trailer, we knew that was cool. It was like, oh my God, and people react to that. Then I think I felt like this is going to be awesome. Then we did the whole thing where they were on the run and he was murdering just regular civilians inside of that door.
Yeah.
And then when he came out bloody and we kind of saw that response, I was like, okay, this is going to work and this is going to be awesome. But a lot of that stuff we had already taped and we're just like, okay, here we go. But
yeah.
We trusted Jeff. I mean, he's so freaking good. And you know, he just embraced the character and brought life to it. And it's amazing.
I'll never forget, like Jeff is like a super nice guy, and he, as DJ said, he was working dark matches, but as Jeff Taub, and like when you watch him, you're like, oh my God, this guy is an amazing athlete, but it didn't necessarily sell monster. And I remember like a few weeks before Matanza debuted, he was in like a 5-way dark match, and Vampiro or DJ or someone was like, go out there and give us the monster. And he just went out there and started throwing people around. And I remember DJ and I were like, oh yeah, this is going to work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, switching gears, we go from Matanza to one of my personal favorites, Marty the Moth. I adore him, one of my favorite characters in the temple, but he always wasn't always meant to be a moth, because we're seeing here that there were plans to make him the Magnificent Moth.
Well, there was a couple plans for him. I think DJ said before he was originally going to be Mill, right?
Yeah, I heard that interview. Yeah, him being
we were just trying to fill roles at a certain point. It was like
I think a lot of people have heard that Marty was originally supposed to be Mill, but what I'm curious about is if Marty would have been Mill, who would the current Mill, what kind of character would he have had?
I have no idea. We got him at the last second to come up and play the part.
Yeah. What a win. Jeez.
Yeah. I think once we got him, we're like, oh, that guy's Mill.
Yeah.
So once he became Mill, we were basically trying out things in dark matches, and we had Marty with the beautiful Brenda. That's how she got the name, the beautiful Brenda, right, Chris?
Yeah, because it was the Magnificent Martin with the beautiful Brenda.
Yeah, so beautiful Brenda originally was like a magician's assistant's name. That's why we just kept it from Famous B. And like, I mean, it's really stupid, and it just like it did not work. But like the original idea was, I mean, it was going to be, and again, this was like when we were still, and I was totally guilty of it, thinking a little more WWE-ish. Like, I think it was going to be sort of like he would do things like he would get in the ring and be like, I am going to put on this straitjacket, and by the time my opponent gets here, I will be free and whatever. And then he'd get like stuck in the straitjacket and be like, oh God.
Yeah.
You know what, though? I feel like Marty would have been able to pull that off.
For sure.
He would say, Brenda, no matter what, under any circumstances, do not let me out of these chains, no matter what. And then you bring somebody down, he's like, let me out of the chains. Let me out of the chains. And Brenda's like, no, you told me not to let you out of the chains. And then
you're like, I'm going to be in this straitjacket. I don't care who my opponent is tonight. You never let me out. And then like Mill starts coming out. He's like, oh my God, let me out.
Yes. I love it. That's amazing. You know what, though? I think Marty the Moth worked out a little bit more than that.
We
absolutely.
We had even played around with an idea that after the Magnificent Martin thing wasn't working, where he was like a tough Mormon kid.
Oh yeah.
Like
What?
and like he was coming around to the temple and like, he was like visiting. He was like very nice. He's like, "Hi, my name's Martin. It's nice to meet you. I'd like to do," and he like would introduce himself to Cueto. But then when he would get in the ring, like he'd come into the ring in his bike and his white shirt and everything. But then when he would get in the ring, he would fight and he'd be like really aggressive and really.
Oh, wow. That's a great idea. I love that.
And then when he was done, he'd get out of the ring and then just be really nice and sweet to everybody on the way out and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I love that. That's the kind of guy that would just, I feel like that's the kind of character that would win an Aztec warfare.
Yeah. And I think what happened, how he became Marty the Moth was, we were talking one day and, we have these 7 tribes and we have these, these characters like Mariposa represents the Moth tribe. And we knew we were going to do a Mariposa, but at the time we didn't have a performer yet to play her. And so we were like, what if we brought in like Mariposa's like loser brother, who's kind of like a joke.
Yes.
But then he has an actual badass sister who we'd reveal in next season. And it just evolved and it worked out great. And Marty played that part so well that we're like, even though this guy's a joke, he could become a major character.
Absolutely. And yeah, I feel like John keeps on saying in our reviews, like he wants Marty as Lucha champion. He wants Marty as everything.
He's so good, guys. Like he just it has a believability, and I've talked about this at length on the podcast because I think the creative freedom that you give your performers, I mean, it's readily apparent, and I think he really is allowed to kind of actualize that vision of psychosis that you kind of have in mind for him, rather than just eating turnbuckles or any of that kind of crap. Like he's able to take it further, and I love that.
Yeah, he's an amazing performer. Like he's one of those guys that I'm always like, if like this were WWE and he was in WWE, I'd be like, okay, we got to get that guy the Intercontinental title ASAP.
Right? Yeah.
He's just like, he's such a great like not mid-level because he's awesome, but like that heel that it doesn't hurt him if he loses, and he has to do evil things to win, but he's just awesome no matter whether he's winning or losing. He's great, kind of like the great heels of WWE past.
So he, in a way, he kind of is what the WWE thinks Bray Wyatt is right now.
Yeah, I feel. Sorry, what?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like early on, once Marty started going crazy, I was like, you could be like our Bray Wyatt. And I think he became better and Bray Wyatt became worse.
Yeah. Well, that's the writing, guys. So thanks for that. But hey, so that's crazy that Martin was originally supposed to be a freaking magician. And then I love the Mormon boy. That's honestly, I almost like that even more than the magician gimmick.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
But let's move on. The other big sort of story in season 1 that I feel like kind of goes forgotten because of how far removed we are from it at this point was the trios title. Like to me, I think 2 or 3 of the best matches in 1 involved the unlikely trio on Helico, Ivelisse, and Son of Havoc. But I'm from what I understand, that wasn't even the original plan for the trios title tournament.
Correct. DJ, do you remember how that was going to go down?
No, I'll let you go with that one, and then I'll try to remember along with you.
All right. So the original thing is we had this kind of thrown together feud between Ivelisse, Son of Havoc, and Helico,
right?
Where it was kind of not really a love triangle. It was just sort of. And Helico, I guess, was the baby face. Son of Havoc was a heel, and Ivelisse was kind of like sick of him losing, whatever. So originally, then we thought it'd be funny to make them a trios team. Like, oh, they're a team that hates each other. Our original plan, I believe, was Killshot, the Mac, and Big Rick were going to win the trios tournament.
Oh, wow.
And then Dario was going to bring out the crew, and then the crew was going to screw them and take the trios titles. And so the crew was going to be the heel trios champions. Right. And so we were going in that direction. And then we had Son of Havoc, Evilise, and Angelico advance past the first round because we were like, oh, it's funny. They hate each other, but they still have to keep teaming together. And they advanced past the first round, and like the crowd was going nuts for Son of Havoc.
Yeah.
And we were like, man, the crowd really loves Son of Havoc. And I remember we were just talking, we're like, we should give them the trios titles. Like, I think it
was you that said that we should do that, because I don't know if I was even 100% on board with it until you kind of convinced us that it was a good idea.
Yeah, well, I just remember seeing that reaction and being like, man, I was like, they are getting like a real reaction. Like, I mean, Killshot, Big Rick, and the Mac. I mean, Killshot and the Mac were both brand new, so people didn't quite know how to react to them, and they were just kind of like, here, these guys are good. You're supposed to like them. And then it's like, oh, the crew's bad. You're supposed to not like them. And I think it was like, okay, Son of Havoc, Evilise, and Angelico, the people actually like feel something emotional about them. So we talked and we were like, not only should they win and then Dario tries to screw them, but they should beat Dario's attempts at screwing them, because we're like, what would WWE would have the crew come out and, oh, look, the bad guys won. And we were like, it actually would be better if the good guys win and then win again. And it totally worked.
Subvert expectations. I love it.
Yeah, that was really an example of like feeling the energy of the temple and like feeling what the people actually wanted, you know?
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Yeah, because I mean, you did say Mac and Killshot were new, but at the same time, even though those guys were new and they were doing crazy fun Technico style stuff in the ring, they were still partnered with Rick. And I think people still really did kind of feel some apprehension towards, you know, really behind Rick and wanting to cheer him just because he was kind of a fresh Technico too. Like he had just turned Technico as well.
Yes, for sure. And I also think on TV, it's always a little difficult with our TV schedule, because even though season 1 had already started airing when we were filming that, like I don't even know if Rick had like turned babyface yet on TV. So
wow,
half of the temple might have been there and seen that, but half the people might have been like, oh, this guy who was just beating up Johnny Mundo, I don't know if I want to cheer for him, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, that's and really that was an interesting kind of example too, because I feel like the last 2 seasons you guys have had tapings completely done before a single episode aired, whereas that first season you were still taping while the show was airing.
Yes.
Man,
that was nice.
Yeah. All right. So next up, next item to discuss. Tell me about what the plans were involving Alberto El Patron and Pentagon.
Want me to take this one?
Yeah. Yes, I would love you to.
So we brought Alberto in to work on Lucha Underground. I had some experience working with him in WWE, with some of his original vignettes, and then his original debut. I think he debuted shortly before I left there. But I always seemed like we had a cool relationship, and then so we brought him in. And we had him debut, and we had come up with an idea because we were building Pentagon. And Chris, feel free to jump in if I don't get this wrong. But the idea was that that we were going to have Pentagon break Alberto's arm to help make Pentagon. Because we knew Pentagon was kind of catching fire, and we're like, God, it would be amazing if he broke his arm, and then we could build a feud with these two guys, and it would probably be a good way for somebody to kind of help somebody big help get this character over and really make him something special. And Alberto was not too into the idea, and that's when kind of like the Vampiro kind of came forward and was like, well, if he won't make him, then maybe I can help make him.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, I'll add to that, DJ, that the other reason we wanted to do that was Alberto, even though he signed with us, had like some other commitments and was going to miss like a month of tapings. So he was gonna be off TV for like 8 weeks. And if you go back to season 1, there's like a whole period of time where we're doing just vignettes with him, where he's not really in arena.
Right.
And so we're like, you're gonna miss all this taping anyway. The perfect thing is he broke your arm and you're rehabbing it. But no.
So what? He just didn't want to look weak in that.
I think he just thought he wasn't ready, right, DJ?
Yeah. I think he thought Pentagon wasn't ready, and I think he also felt like, why is I gonna like this guy's gonna break my arm? Like, I don't think he really saw what we were seeing,
what everyone else was seeing. All right. Well, yeah. All right, man.
I think it worked out for Pentagon.
Definitely. Yeah. That's definitely enlightening.
All right, guys, let's now shift gears here because we know that early on in season 1, Chavo Guerrero didn't exactly make a lot of friends. And there was one point that, he was told that, Mexico hates you because of, the beef he started with Blue Demon Jr. Would you mind telling us about Mexico is Coming for You, the first plan you guys had for that?
Well, we had a big plan originally. DJ, do you remember the original plan, like our pie in the sky plan?
Kind of. Maybe. Oh, yes. I think I do. But go ahead. You can say it. I know which one it is.
Yeah. Basically, we had heard that we might get Rey Mysterio. And obviously, we did end up getting him starting in season 2. But we were like, we heard we may get Rey Mysterio for season 1. So our big plan was, like a few weeks before Ultima Lucha, Rey Mysterio shows up and says, Mexico sent me for you, basically. Like, Mexico, you've been warned Mexico was coming. You didn't listen. So now I'm here to collect the debts. And we wanted to do, I think, Rey Mysterio versus Chavo in a loser leaves Lucha match at Ultima Lucha 1.
Oh, wow. That would have been great. And then you ended up being able to do that later on. But still,
yes,
it's good to know that plan was kind of always there.
Yeah. Obviously, the storyline was different in season 3 when we did it, but yeah, we were like, man, how awesome would it be if Rey Mysterio is this guy representing Mexico and then sends Chavo packing.
Plus, we had hinted at Rey Mysterio in the Conan and Puma packages in the beginning when he's like, a friend of mine had told me to train him. And I even think there was a time when we were even contemplating, like, if Rey didn't come, like, maybe we could get Mystico. But, it just worked out the way it did, and that's what happened.
Yeah. So then we could tell you a little more about our plan B and how that didn't work out either. Which should I just jump into, or do you have any other questions about Rey?
Absolutely. Please tell us more about that.
Am I correct in assuming that this was the plan of doing the Chavo versus Blue Demon and then Chavo getting hurt and having to replace him with Tejano?
Well, it was actually not going to be Chavo versus Blue Demon. It was going to be Chavo versus Tejano. And so we basically had done Chavo versus Blue Demon on episode 1, and we didn't love the match. And so I think our plan was, we had Tejano there. He had his feud with Alberto. He'd done the trio stuff. We were like, we got to do something with this guy. So after we didn't think we were getting Rey, we were like, what if we turn Tejano, Technico, have him be just a total ass kicker? And so the plan was, we had this big match, Chavo versus Prince Puma. Tejano was going to come out, screw Chavo. Then he would be like, Mexico's not coming for you. Mexico's already here. He might have even cut that promo, and it did make the show, but it wasn't great because Chavo actually got hurt during his match with Prince Puma.
Yeah.
So what happened is I think what we were going to do was have like Blue Demon in Tejano's corner, and DJ, I might be wrong, maybe you remember differently. But so Blue Demon was at that taping, and between the first episode and the second episode, we went backstage, and DJ and I were like, what can we do? And we were like, Chavo's hurt. He's not going to make Ultima Lucha. We were like, why don't we just turn Blue Demon heel and do Blue Demon versus Tejano? And it didn't really make sense, but we were like, what's the most interesting thing we can do in this moment, because we have to tape the next episode in 10 minutes.
It was literally 10 minutes. It was during intermission. We went up there and we went up to Blue Demon. We're like, okay, are you cool with this? We're going to turn you heel right now. And we just changed everything on the spot, and he went out there and we did that. I mean, nobody, we were putting it together as right before as they're about to come through the curtain.
You know what though? I got to say, even though it's unfortunate that Chavo did get hurt and you had to change your plans last minute like that, I think the way that you handled Blue Demon's heel turn was freaking great, because of the cinematic that you had with him, screaming, "I am Mexico," like that thing, and
yeah,
the transition into it was surprising relative to the circumstances to me.
Yeah, I definitely think it worked out the best it could. I mean, I think we thought we're like, what, like, why would we do Blue Demon versus Tejano? We're just like, well, maybe he's upset that like Mexico didn't choose him to take out Chavo.
Yeah,
so
Tejano thought that he was Mexico's representation.
Right.
Demons over the corner, like, hey guys, what about me?
Yeah, exactly. So it was what it was. Not as good as Chavo versus Mysterio, but what can you do?
I mean, the original plan obviously would have been huge, and then Chavo getting hurt was really unfortunate, but still, obviously I think a lot of people would say that was a forgettable match, but I still think that you guys kind of gracefully managed to make it not awful.
Thank you.
You try.
All right. You know what? Let's get into season. I'm going to let you handle this one, the first one.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you're letting me handle this first one because we're going to talk about turning Cage Technico into a good guy because of Alberto. And I love Cage as a Technico. It's so interesting seeing a man that looks like he does, that should be able to take over everything on day one, right? Actually be sympathetic and be more of, again, like that good guy character. So tell me the relationship between, him turning babyface because of Alberto. What's that all about?
Do you remember, DJ? What?
I guess it really comes down to is we were going to have Alberto and Johnny continue their feud into season 2. I thank God we ended up with that. We put Johnny over in that, in that Ultima Lucha match.
Yes.
Because Alberto didn't come back and left. So that was kind of a tough thing that we're trying to figure out, oh gosh, what are we going to do with Johnny? And that's kind of how this Cage plan came along. I think if I'm right here, Chris, if I'm explaining everything.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was like, we need Johnny's a pretty hot Rudo right now, and we need someone to go up against him. And we already had a plan with Prince Puma. We were going to not debut Rey Mysterio to Aztec Warfare. We had Pentagon and Mill doing their thing, and we're like, who is worthy to go up against Mundo? And they were like, we didn't have a firm plan on Cage, so we were like, let's turn Cage.
It wasn't even like a sudden instant, like a segment where you turned him either. It was just kind of, he showed up and he wasn't a dick. Like that's kind of all it was, is he showed up, he went against a guy that people wanted to boo, and he beat his ass, and now people like him.
Well, yeah, I mean, because Cage is a badass, right? And so it's like Johnny comes out there and he's bragging, and I think he's like, crying and everything out in the ring. I don't really remember the entire segment, and then Cage ended up answering his challenge and then whipped his ass. And I think, that was pretty. It was okay. Like, I think we can see Cage as like either heel or babyface. He's going to destroy anybody that's in his way, and I think that made for an interesting program between the two, because it was kind of like, wow, these two kind of monsters of Lucha Underground, and not actual monsters, but to see those two guys collide, two big stars like that, we felt like that was a big program, and it was something that people would want to see.
Yeah, that was when that was when Mill was on his throne still, and Mundo was challenging him for the title and talking shit.
Right.
And that was when Cage came out. Yeah, so that was really the first kind of glimpse that we got of Technico Cage, and I'd say it worked out pretty damn well.
Yeah, it did. It worked out great.
All right. So now it's funny because the bridge from season 1 to 2, we did our first season of Lucha rewatch, and we did something that may be returning after season 4. We did Luchador Spotlights, where we looked at all of the major players in Lucha Underground, discussed their season arc, their character motivation, all that stuff. And one sort of common thread that I kept on bringing up, because I'm just obnoxious like that, was that I wanted to see PJ Black in the Temple. And the big thing that I wanted personally was I wanted the team of PJ Black, Angelico, and Jack Evans, because Angelico and Jack Evans were already a team. PJ Black and Angelico had the South Africa connection. So I was like, I want those 3 guys as a trio. But we didn't get that. We got Worldwide Underground. But from what I understand, Angelico might have potentially been in the Worldwide Underground at one point.
Well, it's funny now that you're saying this. I just totally remembered something else that we can lead into that. But you bring up PJ Black and DJ. I think you'll remember PJ Black was not originally going to be part of Worldwide Underground. Someone totally different was. Do you remember Deej?
No, I don't really. I will remember once you say it.
So we had written the season with Paul London in Worldwide in the PJ Black spot. And Paul London, who we also used as an agent, like a week before the tapings, I think called DJ and was like, so I kind of hurt myself on some show. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be at the top of my game. And DJ and I remember so clearly we were shooting a Tejano vignette. DJ and I got a beer afterwards and we're like, who could we get to put in that Paul London spot? And I think we were like, what about PJ, Justin Gabriel, whatever his name was? We're like, I wonder if because he had left WWE. And DJ reached out and he's like, yeah, that's my favorite show. I'll definitely come be on Lucha Underground.
That's awesome.
And so it worked out because then we did the whole storyline with him and Jack teaming up and then becoming part of the Worldwide Underground.
Oh, yeah, that's so cool.
I think that's one of the best things about PJ is he just kind of, he lives by the seat of his pants. He's always doing something and taking risks. And he was like, sure, man, I would love to do that. I love it. And, I think he was like skydiving or something that day. And he was like, yeah, I'll be there. I'll come.
Base jumping. Yeah, he's crazy, man.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Awesome, though. So what's the story then? So what's the story then with Angelico?
Well, okay, so Angelico, and I think DJ and I both agree, we've gone through a lot of, Angelico got hurt twice. He got hurt in season 2 and he also got hurt in season 3. So we've gone through a lot of different ideas for Angelico, but one thing I can say for sure is, and I don't exactly know when this would have played out, but we definitely wanted at some point Angelico to join Worldwide Underground. And I think because on season 2, we had the Trios team. They were Trios champs. And I think we knew we wanted to sort of break them off all into their own direction. And I can't remember for sure if originally we wanted Angelico to join Worldwide Underground or turn bad and face Son of Havoc at Ultima Lucha that season. I can't quite remember, but I do know we definitely had this idea of Angelico joining Worldwide Underground and kind of becoming how The Rock was to Farouk in Nation of Domination. He's sort of being he joins, but then starts to think he's better than Johnny.
Right. He's the underling that surpasses the leader.
Yeah. Is that right, DJ? I mean, I mean, we sort of, but the truth is that, him joining Worldwide Underground was never really fully developed because unfortunately he got hurt. And so then it became, we changed it to Worldwide Underground attacked him. That's why he got hurt.
That's hell, writing on the fly. I love that. Yeah, that's great. Man.
In fact, I honestly think, and I could be totally wrong. I honestly think there might have been a point, and DJ, I don't know if you have any memory of this, where we originally were thinking of Johnny going one-on-one with Phoenix at Ultima Lucha Dos and having Angelico, Jack, and PJ be the Trios champs and them facing someone. It wouldn't have Drago, Aerostar, and maybe someone else that wasn't Phoenix. I can't quite remember. Maybe it was Drago, Aerostar, and Son of Havoc or something like that. But we definitely early on want Johnny and Phoenix one-on-one at Ultima Lucha Dos.
Wow. Yeah. You know what though? That you kind of really did hint at that early on with Johnny beating down Phoenix in the backstage area to become the leader of Worldwide Underground.
Right. Yep.
That would have made sense.
Yeah, I mean, all this talk of Johnny Mundo and these original plans makes me quite giddy because I love everything about that, obviously. But speaking of Ultima Lucha Dos, we know one man, Pentagon Dark, after he underwent his whole transformation and his trials with Vampiro, he faced the Monster Matanza, the guy that originally broke his back, Bane to Batman style there for the Lucha Underground Championship. But that wasn't always the plan for Pentagon, apparently. Talk to us about Pentagon's original plans for Ultimate Luchadors.
Well, that was the plan, DJ, but I think our original plan for him at there was different, right, Deej?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately going into season 2, we were like, Pentagon is the hottest character we have, or
right.
I mean, obviously Prince, Puma, and Mill, and then bringing in Ray and Matanza, we all knew would have a lot of hype, but I think we could feel Pentagon. Like, we were like, Pentagon could be like a Stone Cold type phenomenon.
So I gotta ask, just
yes.
rip the Band-Aid off. Was the original plan for him to win the title?
Yes, that's the
damn it.
But then I think DJ and I were like, it kind of undercuts Matanza a little bit because, like, especially with a shortened season, like, okay, Matanza's been champion on TV for 3 months and then he loses. It kind of like, I mean, I stand by not giving Pentagon the title at Ultimate Luchadors. What do you think, DJ?
Me, 100%. I think it was the right move. I know a lot of people were disappointed, especially that night, and then when people watched it, they were upset. But I think we always knew where we wanted to go with Pentagon, and we didn't think it was going to hurt his momentum whatsoever. If anything, we thought it would make people crave it even more.
Yeah,
and I think it did. I think people felt angry enough about Pentagon not winning the title in that moment that it really did kind of almost raise his stock that much more.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Ultimately it's like, if he had beaten Matanza, then in season 3, Matanza is kind of like, all right, he's sort of, Matanza is kind of like how Kane, after Kane lost, and it's like, okay, there's Kane. He's sort of scary, I guess. It would have been like, he's kind of a monster, I guess. And then Pentagon would have been the champion, and where do you go from there? It's a lot easier to have the popular character chasing the title than being champion.
Right. And I think.
Oh, sorry.
You go ahead, John. Oh, okay, I'll go. What I was just going to say is, I think that for a character like Pentagon 2, that's not really necessarily a guy that you want to be the champion for a really long time because of how compelling he is as a chaser.
Yeah, I mean, Pentagon in a way, listen, I'm glad we made Pentagon champion in season 3. It was time. Right. People wanted it, but he's kind of like The Undertaker. Like The Undertaker or Stone Cold or The Rock. I mean, those guys don't, like, Stone Cold's going to sell as many t-shirts whether he had the title or not,
Right.
Yeah.
Same with Undertaker. But I get it. Pentagon fans want him to be champion. And I mean, I get it. I totally get it as a wrestling fan.
Well, I mean, nobody was angrier that night than Pentagon because he beat the bejesus out of Vampiro after the fact, which was amazing.
Yes.
But even though Matanza didn't lose the title that night, he would ultimately lose it in Aztec Warfare 3, which was one of the really big moments of Aztec Warfare 3. And Aztec Warfare, I think, is one of the best concept matches that Lucha Underground has. So let's talk a little bit as we go into season 3 now. What were your original plans for Aztec Warfare 3?
DJ, do you want to take it? Or?
No. I have a hard time remembering some of this stuff until we get into it. Then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I didn't do my homework. I've been busy at the temple here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
DJ does more work than I do on the actual season, so it's easier for me to remember stuff.
No.
Well, here's the evolution of Aztec Warfare 3. This is what we thought. Very early on, we had talked about, the thing about Royal Rumble we kind of hate, even though we love the idea of the Royal Rumble, is that, like, it's rarely, you kind of always know who's going to win. Or you always know it's like one of 3 guys, right?
At most at this time, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the most guys that were ever really hyped as like potential Rumble winners was like, what was it, back in when there were like 4 guys that were
back in when? Yeah. I mean
01? Like 2001, I think.
Yeah. Exactly. Like you always know it's going to be someone. It's always someone in this realm.
Right.
And so I actually, my Royal Rumble, my first Royal Rumble when I worked at WWE was actually the one Rey Mysterio won, which I was actually so excited about because I actually found that to be kind of surprising at the time, you know, because you know, Vince originally wanted Randy Orton to win that one, I think. But anyway, I digress. Yeah. But anyway, the point is we were like, wouldn't it be cool to just have someone win that like no one expects to win, just like some random person? So originally, we had talked about, we knew we wanted Ray to pin Matanza in the match. We knew that for sure because that way, it builds Ray and Matanza. Ray's the one guy that I think pinning Matanza doesn't hurt Matanza. And it would make it exciting, like, oh my God, anyone could win and be champion. So originally, we had talked about Angelico winning it.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But then the injury.
That is right. That's right.
That makes the injury that much more heartbreaking, though.
Well, this is a little crazy. So we had talked about that. We're like, all right, let's do that. Then he got injured or something. So then we started talking about people, and then we came to Sexy Star. So we had actually sort of written it like Angelico won, and then we were gonna like have Angelico win, and then Johnny use the gift of the gods to screw Angelico the next week. But then we started talking, and then we were sort of like, man, isn't it kind of cool if Sexy Star won? Because she has been there since the beginning. It would be a huge upset. We knew there'd be some people like, oh, you can't give a woman a man's title, but I mean, come on. These are bigger than life characters. That's absurd. Right. And so we're like, story wise, we were like, isn't it a great story that Johnny screwed Sexy Star out of the Gift of the Gods title, but she still somehow managed, even without the Gift of the Gods, to win the Lucha Underground title, and then Johnny uses that title that he screwed her out of to screw her out of the world title.
Yep.
Like we're like,
John always says that Sexy Star is Johnny Mundo's delivery woman.
Just like you said in his celebratory promo, I loved it. I loved every bit of it.
Yeah. Man. And so I think we just thought that's a good story. And I think we felt like Angelico would be, I think actually Angelico might have been cleared at the last minute. He was because doesn't he do a dive?
He does.
Yeah, that's right. He was the one that really caused, I think, like 2 or 3 members of Worldwide Underground to be eliminated.
Right. But I think we then stuck with our Sexy Star plan because it just we felt like it made Johnny like such a scumbag heel, such a scumbag. Right? Yeah.
I think if you think about it from the perspective of the end game, Aztec Warfare 3 being the winner, being screwed over by Mundo the following week, Sexy Star made the most sense out of everything that to win.
Yeah. And I think we thought, well, if Angelico did it, then it's more fuel on that fire. But then we were like, there's already plenty of fuel on this fire. Like the Worldwide Underground, like shoving his leg in a car door. And then we wouldn't, then we could build toward that, which we didn't, but.
Oh man, that's amazing though. That I love that Angelico really is kind of constantly on your radar when it's healthy. It's just kind of unfortunate that we're not going to see him back in the temple.
Well, you never know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm still keeping my hopes up, but his Twitter doesn't leave a whole hell of a lot to the imagination. Whenever we talk about Lucha Underground and the events that go down within the confines of the TV show, I always refer to it as the Luchaverse. But I understand there were actual plans for an actual alternate universe. I am really curious. Can you explain what was going down there?
Well, you have a timeline here with and you have Aerostar who can kind of go between time and stuff like that. So we're playing with ideas, just kind of hanging out and like shooting the shit. And like, what if like Aerostar messed with time and things got messed up, and then we've had a period of, I don't know, 2 to 4 episodes or something like that, where everything in Lucha Underground got flipped upside down and everything changed and the world changed, and then Aerostar has to figure out a way to reset the universe, and still something would still be wrong with the universe that could never be changed back. We just thought it'd be a cool concept for a series of shows, and you could do a bunch of different things. And I think like some of the ideas, and Chris, you can help me with this. It was like Marty, we come back and Marty Aerostar's mess with time, and Marty the Moth is a baby face, and he's like the Hulk Hogan of Lucha Underground, and he's got a big flag, and everybody's cheering for Aztec Pride. And like everything was kind of flipped upside down in this world for a few episodes while Aerostar tried to fix what went wrong.
Yeah, like Mill and Pentagon were best friends and tag team champs together.
Yeah, we were just going to take the titles and totally change. And yeah, they were on different people, and everything was different. And you just come in because Aerostar had reset time. So.
Yeah. The reason Aerostar, what our idea was this was after Drago sort of joined the reptile tribe, and so it's so stupid. We were going to have Aerostar travel back in time 1,000 years to when Pindar first ruled, and he was going to like kill Pindar, but it was going to basically have like a butterfly effect to where now everything was different after. So he kills Pindar so Drago can never be taken. So then at the end of it, he was going to have to go back and like have a fight with himself to stop him from killing Pindar.
That's too good.
That sounds incredible to me, though, because I've said repeatedly on the podcast, and Ashley can attest this. Like, I feel like Aerostar is one of those characters because of his time travel ability. It could just change the game at any moment. Like, I love that he's that character that, he's kind of at like that mid-card level, at least it seems to me. But instantly like that, if you wanted to, you could make him that main event player because of his abilities. So I think this sounds like an amazing idea.
Yeah, and we won't do this, but we love Aerostar. We love that he can, I don't know, travel through time or space or whatever he can do. So there's a lot to mine with Aerostar for sure.
Wow, that's crazy, man. I love that though. That's just the fact that ideas like that are even potentially they're ideas that aren't so far out of the realm of possibility that it sounds ludicrous by any means. Like that actually sounds like if that would happen on an episode or in a season of Lucha Underground, I'd be like, this is amazing and it makes sense with the universe that you've already set up.
Yeah, I mean, I think DJ and I, we both feel like with Lucha Underground, it's like the WWE is kind of weird in the sense of like, in one hand, it's like it almost acts like wrestling is real and like so everyone's like using real names and it's like a real sport. But then you have like The Undertaker who's like supernatural, or Bray Wyatt who's like supernatural, but then it's like I don't really know what world that's in. So we sort of feel like if we're gonna go supernatural, let's go supernatural. Let's have crazy stuff happen because it's kind of weird. I mean, listen, I think our goal with Lucha Underground is to kind of play with every trope in wrestling and, just like, Mill is like a supernatural character and you have characters like Famous B who are like a throwback to wrestling managers. And, we try to do it our own homage to everything in wrestling. I do think like we've set up a world where anything can happen.
That's the best part about it is that in this world we can literally do anything. Especially we've murdered people, we've done everything, and that's kind of been the best part about Lucha Underground is that anything and everything can happen. And I think that Aerostar character even helps that even more because we can just kind of use him to manipulate things or do whatever we need to do. So it is.
By the way, speaking of murder, we were so nervous season 1 when we killed Bale. We were like, are we jumping the shark? Is this where people stop watching the show? But no, they loved it.
That was and the thing is, not only was that a great way to introduce the idea of people can permanently die in this show, but it led to an amazing moment in Dario Cueto murdering Mr. Cisco.
Yes.
One of my favorites.
Yes. So wonderful.
Yes. All right. We did get a $2 super chat from Cliff Amal. He said you guys have this thing called an identity. So that's exactly a great. Let's move on though. Up next, we have the Gift of the Gods, and I know that at the end of season 3, Pentagon and Son of Havoc both technically won the Gift of the Gods. So were they the original plans to be like Gift of the Gods co-holders?
No.
Different people. Okay.
Pentagon was our original plan. Pentagon was nowhere near the Gift of the Gods.
Oh wow.
the original plan was basically, I think we wanted Taya, Jack, and PJ to be co-holders. Like, I think, basically, I think we were going to have them like basically manipulate Dario or somehow get into multiple medallion matches to where like those three won 3 medallions as a trio, but then Taya got a singles match and PJ got a match, and basically they had all the medallions. So at the medallion ceremony, they were like, you know what, Dario, we're not going to have a match. We're all just going to be Gift of the Gods champion.
Oh, that's amazing. So you know what though? They wouldn't even have had to do any manipulating. They could have just left it up to Benji to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Benji could have been like, listen, my clients all have claim to this title. And so we were going to build to an Ultima Lucha ladder match for the Gift of the Gods, those 3 versus Son of Havoc for the Gift of the Gods title.
Oh, wow.
But then Jack Evans and Angelico both got hurt in the same match.
Oh.
And we had to change a lot of Ultima Lucha plans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're already talking about changing Ultima Lucha plans. Let's talk about what the original main event was supposed to be.
The original, we were going to have 2 main events. One was going to be Prince Puma versus Pentagon Dark, career versus career. Oh, and the other was going to be Johnny Mundo versus Angelico for the title, right, DJ?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And so I actually think what we ended up with is better. Sometimes, like, I hate that Angelico got hurt. I hate that Jack got hurt. But when that happened, we had to realign, and we were like, why is Pentagon not in the title picture? So we changed everything. Originally, we were going to have Pentagon versus Prince Puma. Pentagon would beat Prince Puma, send him packing to NXT.
Right.
Then we were going to do Angelico versus Johnny, and I don't think we ever decided. Ultimately, what we wanted was Son of Havoc to come out, kind of like Pentagon did, and either Angelico won the title and Son of Havoc cashes in on Angelico or exchanges for a title match with Angelico on the spot, and Angelico's like, we're friends, what are you doing? Or Johnny Mundo beat Angelico, but then Son of Havoc came out.
Like a backup plan.
And then beats Johnny Mundo, but then we would turn Angelico heel like, dude, you stole my Ultima Lucha moment.
Yeah. You would have like depressed Angelico being like, yeah, you took away my moment. It was all supposed to be mine. It was everything. Son of Havoc ruined it. Yeah.
Emo Helico.
Yeah, exactly. So we've heard you. I think we sort of first started talking about going on with you guys because we've heard you talk a lot about how it seemed like Ultima Lucha Tre should have been Son of Havoc's storyline, and originally it kind of was, and but people got hurt. We had to change things. Obviously, we love Son of Havoc very much, but it was also just Prince Puma was leaving. Him versus Johnny Mundo was a story since season 1. Pentagon Dark, as much, Son of Havoc is also an underdog and a huge fan favorite. But Pentagon Dark, it seemed like it was kind of his time as well.
Yeah.
So
almost in a way, it seems like the decision not to give the title to Pentagon at Ultima Lucha Dos led to Son of Havoc not being able to win it at Ultima Lucha Tres.
I would say more the injuries did. I mean, Angelico and Jack got injured in the middle of shooting season 3, so who knows where we would have ended up. We might have, even without them injured, decided Pentagon Dark needed to be in that title picture.
Right.
But we definitely in Ultima Lucha Dos were like, we love the idea of Son of Havoc getting screwed out of that main event spot and then somehow finding his way back there.
Right.
But everything in wrestling evolves, and you got to sort of roll with the punches and sort of go with your gut and decide what's best at the time. And I think I honestly think, and DJ, I don't know if you agree or not, but I think as much of a fan favorite Son of Havoc is, and if we had decided to give him the title, it definitely would have got a huge pop. But I also think it might have hurt Son of Havoc in a sense of people being like, why haven't they given Pentagon the title?
Yeah.
Like what? Like, I don't know. What do you think, DJ?
I completely agree with that. I think it was time for Pentagon, and once we kind of started to sit back and look at it, we're like, why weren't we doing this all along? And and kind of this crazy story with Johnny and Puma, the two ultimate rivals, and then Pentagon coming in, taking it, and basically taking his spot as the new face of Lucha Underground instead of Prince Puma. It just made a lot more sense.
Yeah, and the big reveal with Vampiro at the end too was great. So that's all we have.
Can I just add one little Worldwide Underground thing, and this is for John.
Please do. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. I'm all ears for this.
Because I know that John loves the Worldwide Underground so much. There is a line you'll see in, I think, in season 3 where Benjamin Cook calls Sexy Star the worst world champion of all time.
Oh, yes. Oh, this is so good. This is so good.
The reason why that line is still there is because Benjamin Cook was supposed to be David Arquette, but he fell out of the role right before we're about to tape. So we had to find somebody.
God!
Oh wow!
That line coming from David Arquette would have been legend status.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It was basically like David Arquette's like, Sexy Star is the worst champion in the history of wrestling, and Dario just goes, "Are you sure about that?"
Yeah. Yeah, so David Arquette wasn't supposed to be David Arquette. He was supposed to be
Benjamin Cook.
Benjamin, right? Yeah, Benjamin. Yeah,
but it was
still, though, like within the universe. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm so glad you remembered that. That's hilarious.
Oh man! All right, so that's all we've got as far as show notes go. We've got some questions to ask you that aren't necessarily related to storyline plans changing and stuff. Anything else that you guys wanted to bring up that we didn't mention already that hasn't been touched on?
I'm glad DJ remembered that. That was so good.
Yeah.
Oh! I remember one thing real quick. One storyline that didn't happen that we were about to shoot and we didn't, and I really love. I just remembered. If I can tell you guys real quick.
Please do.
Okay. The beginning of season 3, we were going to have a flashback, and I think we just cut it for budget reasons or time reasons, because we were prepping it. We were gonna have a flashback that basically, it was in the beginning of the second episode, and it basically took place the day before the first episode of Lucha Underground, and it was Big Rick. It was at Big Rick's house, I think, and Bale and Cortez and Cisco were there. And basically, it was Cisco introducing Cortez to Big Rick, and he's like, "Here's this guy. He's going to help us with this thing, make some money in this underground." Like basically, that because Dario had paid the crew off to attack Johnny and Puma, and Big Rick like pulls Cisco into the kitchen. He's like, "Are you sure about this guy?" And Cortez is sort of listening. And he's like, "Are you sure about this guy? You sure this guy isn't some cop or something?" And Cisco's like, "No, he's my friend. I trust him." And then like we would go from that flashback to Cortez, like remembering that mourning Cisco's death and feeling all this guilt.
What a punch in the gut.
We had the details so far down that even there was like a picture of the Mac on Big Rick's wall since they're cousins.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
And, all little. We went and got childhood pictures of Mac so we could have childhood pictures of him inside of Big Rick's house. So it's like Mac as a little kid and stuff like that. So you knew that there was kind of in family portraits and stuff like that.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was. I'm bummed up. That and David Arquette are probably two of the things I'm most bummed didn't happen.
Yeah, David Arquette, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, David Arquette, just for that line alone, would have been amazing.
Yeah, that would have been incredible.
Plus, we love Big Rick, so anytime we can get Big Rick, I got nothing but love for Big Rick.
Yeah, he's the best. He's great.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. Is that would have been bringing him back just to shoot that scene? Yeah, that would have been great too.
Yeah,
right.
we had.
No, you go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say we had everything planned, even this plane ticket and everything. Everything was all set, and then that had to get scrapped.
Oh man! Wow. All right, I think it's time to move on here. We have each of us has some questions for you guys, and then we agreed upon a fifth question. And then we're going to field some questions from chat as well. John, you can go ahead first with your first question because I know it's kind of the heaviest one. So let's just get that in.
Yeah, I mean, I know you guys are a huge fan of the show, and I'm very honored about that, and I'm honored that you guys are here today. And so you know what a huge fan I was of the Hell of War match and ultimately the Dante Fox and Killshot angle, because I feel like it approached PTSD and the struggles of coming home from war with a lot of sensitivity and care. And then going back before that, Sexy Star, you know, being this survivor of abuse and putting on the mask and finding strength. I think in this cultural moment, you know, with Me Too and all that stuff, it's a very resonant character and a very empowering character. And, you know, we've mentioned WWE a few times. When I think about them, like, I know they mentioned one time, oh, we'd like to do more LGBTQ storylines. And I kind of, my internal organs kind of cringe thinking about it, because I would feel like they're very over the top and it would be like caricatures. So what my question ultimately amounts to is, how important is appropriate representation to sensitive topics like Sexy Star struggles or like coming home from war with Killshot and Dante? How important is that to you guys? And are you planning to approach any more kind of sensitive topics in future seasons, you know, through characters?
That's a very good question. Do you want to start, DJ? Or
yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's extremely important to portray those stories the best and if possible the most truthful way possible, and to also kind of make them empowering and not I guess just to not just throw them away or make a joke of them or things like that, because they are real things. You know, a lot of people, I don't know if they do know this, but Killshot actually served in the military, and that was kind of part of the motivation of kind of developing the military version of Killshot from the original Killshot that you kind of saw with the red mask and all that. And that kind of change in the character was kind of based off of his real life experience
Wow.
in the military. So not that he was ever a prisoner of war or anything like that, but I think we thought we could tell a really cool and complex story about this kind of who this man was and kind of the things that have happened to him in this kind of crazy war story, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you know, I think that's that. And I think, you know, another thing is like, those kind of all come from real places. Like Sexy Star story came from a real place, you know, it's a real thing. And I think we wanted to try to tell that the best we could. And I think also within Lucha Underground, we have empowered characters that to anybody. So, you know, the story about the mask saving Sexy Star's life was a real story that she had told to us. So, you know, we kind of made that a real thing. And Chris, I don't know, you want to add to that or?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think that, you know, wrestling's hard because wrestling, especially the old WWE, is campy and doesn't always handle things appropriately. I mean, you know, I think like the Billy and Chuck wedding was not handled well. I think it's sort of, and I get that was 15 years ago or however long it was, and the world has continued to evolve since then. But I just think they had a chance to sort of be trailblazers and they blew it. So it's always hard because there's a fine line in wrestling because you don't want anything to see, because there's so much parody and so many things we are kind of making fun of.
Right.
You never want to make it seem like you're making fun of anyone's struggles or sexuality or real life issues. That said, I do strongly believe that one of the best ways to expose people to things in the world is through entertainment. And, you know, I think we all start learning about sensitivity to different things through movies and TV shows. So I think it's great that we had a character like Sexy Star who we used a piece of her real life and put it into her character and was like, you know, women are strong and they're not, you know, they can come back from a dark place and be stronger and better because of it. So it's a fine line, but I definitely think it's important to try and do it the right way.
I love that you guys are about that, because just to get a little personal for a quick second, you know, having cerebral palsy like I do, and it's a big talk in our community, like representation of disability, like in film and television, and a lot of non-disabled people like play disabled parts.
Yeah,
and, you know, it's like a big debate, like in our community, and I'm like, it's really not that hard to handle something, you know, with care. You've just got to show the humanity in it, and that's what I think. What I love about what you guys did with Dante, especially Dante, you know, being more of the Rudo character in the feud with Killshot, like you still showed his humanity. You never once, in my mind, made him a caricature. And then sexy, that just speaks for itself. So I think that's one of my favorite things about you guys. And that's why I had to take this opportunity to ask about that, because I think you guys do just such a brilliant job with it. So,
and you know what? Talking about Dante, that one cinematic with him, bridge, and remembering the interrogation is definitely one of my favorite Lucha Underground segments ever.
Yeah, it's good. Skip, that's an example of Skip making something written even better.
Yeah. That's unbelievable.
Absolutely.
All right.
Ashley, your question?
My first question, not nearly as heavy, but still something I'm very curious about. You guys know John and I rewatched the season. We have our Lucha Rewatch series, and during the first ever episode of Lucha Rewatch, we really picked up on Stryker mentioning during the Mundo Puma main event that they could go all night long, and just kind of planting that seed. But I'm curious what other little nuggets might have been dropped on commentary that could have been maybe foreshadowing for later events that we might have missed, that maybe we overlooked.
Well, I know for sure. I'm sure that there's probably a ton of Vampiro ones with Pentagon that have been in throughout the seasons of him saying little things here and there.
Right.
I mean, that's one that comes to mind. I think the all night long thing was. I think we mentioned it, but I don't think we had the idea for the match. I think it was just basically kind of going off the Lionel Richie song and stuff like that.
Oh my God!
And his
I think that
teaming with Rich Swann and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was. Yeah, I think that's why he made it. I mean, I think that was also, sometimes there's reverse engineering on our part. I mean, the all night long match, I know we didn't come up with until like deep into filming of season 1, but I think sometimes, here's another good example. Pentagon breaking arms. Like, we wanted, once we were like, oh, we can make Pentagon a cool character, we wanted something that felt like the Stone Cold Stunner. And I think Skip in like a Pentagon vignette just had him break a dude's arm or something. And I think, or basically we were like, why don't we just have him do that after matches?
Yeah. And
so sometimes it might seem like, oh, we had planned things out from a long time, from the very beginning. But I also think it's, we pay attention to everything and then be like, oh, this was mentioned, maybe we can turn it into something. I think it works both ways.
So you really are kind of reverse engineering your own stuff in a way.
Sometimes, yeah, it just depends.
That's awesome.
And sometimes, obviously, like season 4 has been shot, as I guess everyone knows, pretty quickly. So we've known where we're going. So in that case, we might have commentary mention stuff that pays off later.
Nice. All right, John.
All right. Well, I know my first question was heavy. This is a bit lighter. Are there any plans to go deeper into the tribes and their big conflict? Because I know that was touched on in one cinematic where Aerostar came to visit, and he wants to try and prevent this big conflict from happening. Are we going to learn more about that conflict in the tribes going forward?
Yes.
Awesome. Good enough for me. Hey, that's all I needed to hear.
I knew that's all they were going to give you too, because that's like, if they go deeper into it, it's probably going to be spoilery.
Yeah, I'll just say definitely yes.
Awesome. All right, Ashton, you?
Yeah, my second question, I just wanted to know, because we absolutely love Lucha Underground. That's our favorite wrestling show, but I'm curious what other wrestling promotions you guys might follow outside of Lucha Underground.
DJ, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I try to watch a little bit of everything if I can. I don't really necessarily, and I don't know. I don't think Chris does either. Have the time to devote that much time to constantly watching it. I think we try to keep our ears to the street and kind of see what's happening. I think we always kind of know what's happening, whether we can sit down for 3 hours and watch Raw, or then sit and watch NXT and then find a way to watch Impact and watch ROH. Like, not always. I mean, sometimes it's just like, catch some stuff online, find an indie match, watch something from Japan or Mexico. Like, it's really, for me, I kind of like try to tune into anything I can if I have a chance to look at it. Like, I mean, for instance, I'm going to say this. I really liked Raw. I hadn't watched Raw in a long time. And I actually kind of liked it on Monday. And I try to check things out whenever I can. I've been known to go to Chris Roach's house, have a beer, and watch a pay-per-view. So.
Yeah, I mean, Raw. I feel like Raw really has.
He has a world famous Fastlane party that I.
It's funny you mentioned that you watched Raw, because I've been saying for a little while that Raw has actually not been that bad over the last few months. Like it's still got a lot of bad and a lot of miss, but it's been, I would argue, more hit than miss in recent months. So yeah,
I mean, John Cena got me to want to watch an Undertaker match.
I know that segment was incredible. What about you, Chris? Do you have any other promotions that you follow at all?
No, I mean, listen, I grew up a mega WWF fan. I mean, I got into WWF in the early 90s. I was through high school and college. I was a major fan. I did not watch. So
you really got to live through the worst and then see it become the best.
Yes, but I never jumped to WCW. I was always a WWF fan, even when they were horrible.
Yeah.
I loved Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart and 1-2-3 Kid and Razor Ramon. And then, I honestly thought there was a time WCW was going to like put them out of business, but I stuck with them. And then of course, when I was in college was the Attitude Era and Stone Cold and The Rock. And I always dreamed of like writing for WWE one day. So I was a huge fan. And then after I worked there, even though my experience there was great, I kind of started to watch a little less and a little less. And I've always kept up with, I've always watched WrestleMania. I always watched the big 4 pay-per-views. And I have the WWE Network, but I don't watch religiously. I watch most of the pay-per-views, especially the bigger ones. And I was watching Raw for a while, but I just don't really have time. It's hard to find time to do that for me. And then as far as other promotions, like DJ said, I might watch a match if someone sends me something from New Japan or whatever, but I don't watch any of them religiously. I have a few different jobs and a baby, and it's hard for me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I think that's the last of our individual questions. We have kind of another question, and if you guys are comfortable with revealing anything, we have a backup just in case.
Okay.
Any kind of an update on when we can expect to see season 4 airing on the El Rey Network?
I believe our friend Dorian Roldan from AAA has tweeted that we should see it probably in the early summer. Late spring, early summertime. So yeah,
right.
I think
the May June stuff.
I don't think there's an official announcement, but I know that Dorian tweeted that, and we're already. I'll tell you this: we've already started cutting the episodes. I've already watched a few versions of episode 1 and 2 of season 4. So
nice.
We're getting there.
Yeah, because we've been speculating for a while, May or June, and it sounds like that's pretty close to being right on the money. All right, and then only other question we wanted to ask: out of everything that you guys do for Lucha Underground, whether it's the writing or anything else that you do, working on vignettes, anything like that, what would you say is your favorite thing to work on?
Should I go, DJ?
Yeah, go ahead. You go first. Sure.
I mean, the whole experience is great. I'll honestly say my favorite part of working on Lucha Underground is early on getting with DJ with a blank page and saying, okay, what crazy things can we do? What do we want to see? What matches do we want to see? What, if we could do anything, what would we do? I mean, it's really fun, and it's fun to see how it evolves, and it's fun to pass ideas back and forth. Obviously, it's even cooler when you're actually at the temple and it's actually happening. But I love the creative process.
Yeah, for me, I think there's 2 things that I like. Obviously, the creative process, but sometimes it's the things that we just make that are a joke at first, or that you just mention and you laugh about, and the next thing you know, we actually make it into something on TV, like the Famous Bee commercials. That was just a joke that we just kind of text about things like that end up happening. That it's like, and there's some things in this season that kind of are like inside things that we end up saying, oh, you know what, we should put it on TV. Why the hell not? And then we do that. I think that's fun. I think the other thing that's fun besides like, throwing ideas back and forth with Chris and Andrew and everybody involved, and it's like, is when we actually get to the show and we start to produce the show and kind of work through the problems that arise. You put something on paper is one thing, but then when we actually get here and try to execute it and talk it through with everybody, things like that happen, and it's fun to kind of work on the fly a little bit. Like even some of these scenarios where we've kind of changed things, some of the most exciting nights are the night when Chris Roach comes up to you and says, dude, I think we should have Angelico, Ivelisse, and Son of Havoc win the Trios championships. And then you just think about it and you're like, you know what? You're right. We should do that. Like that kind of excitement to me is what really is fun. And then when you see the crowd react to it and you're actually there and we're sitting in the control room and the show's going and you high five when everybody's going nuts, you're like, that was a good effing show. That to me is the real fun part. It's the teamwork of everybody kind of coming together and making it into something.
Awesome. All right, John, anything else you wanted to say before we get to chat questions?
Absolutely not. This was quite a pleasurable experience, to say the least, and I guess we can go over to our chat questions.
All right. So first chat question was actually asked way early on before I even fielded for questions, but I loved this question so much I wanted to ask you guys. Cliff Amal in chat asked, who on the WWE roster right now would you love to write for in Lucha Underground the most?
Great question. Is it one person?
Yeah, well, yeah. Who in general? And if you want to just pick one person, maybe one male, one female, however you want to go about it, that's the question.
They got an awesome roster, so I would pick Ricochet.
Yeah.
But if it has to be someone we haven't previously worked for, I think. Damn. Man. God, there's so many good ones. I would say Finn Balor or Dolph Ziggler.
Interesting.
The Balor answer doesn't surprise me, but Ziggler kind of does.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going to say this, and I have experience working with both of them, and to me, I really think that. I think. Well, let me say this. How about I would like. I'll change my. I won't say Dolph Ziggler because I was going to say Dolph, but I will say Bray Wyatt.
Right. That's. I feel like if somebody asks like, "Oh, who in WWE do you want in Lucha Underground?" That's probably the most common answer that you'll get.
I think it would be fun, and I think it would be something different. And I have two more. One is Jeff Hardy, because I just love Jeff Hardy a lot, and the other one would probably be The Miz, just because I think he's the best, and he's one of the best in the business right now. And God, he's on fire, man. And I love the guy personally, and I have always enjoyed working with him. And man, he would be awesome to have him too.
Can I also qualify my answers? Finn Balor, because I feel like he would fit in so well with our roster, and we could make do great stuff with him. He fits that mold. Dolph Ziggler, I feel like is awesome, but I would love the challenge of taking someone who I feel like WWE has sort of dropped the ball on, and see if we could reinvent them and make them the most exciting they've ever been. Like Dolph Ziggler for me is like that challenge, because I think he's like the total package. Like Johnny Mundo, I think, and this is Johnny, not us, but Johnny Mundo is like to me the best he's ever been. Yeah, he's so great. Absolutely. And like I would love like to try to have Dolph Ziggler and see if something like that would happen. Also a female, I would love to have Sasha Banks.
Yeah, me too.
Hell yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. So we've kind of managed to round up the final four questions. Second question from James: if you were talking to a fan who's looking for an alternative to WWE, what would you tell them is the biggest difference between WWE and Lucha Underground, and why is Lucha Underground the appropriate alternative for those fans?
I would say storytelling. Like, if storytelling is the most important, and I'm not just saying like, oh, it's like we're great storytellers. I just mean we really try, no matter what, to make every story pay off and to have everything make sense. And I feel like one thing that turned me off about WWE, even when I was younger, is sometimes they're just like, let's forget about this character. Let's forget about this storyline, with like no explanation or nothing, you know, or there wouldn't be consistency, or two guys that like hated each other 3 months ago are now just teaming together because now they're both good guys.
Yeah.
And so I think the one thing in Lucha Underground we really strive to do is have every story make sense, have there be continuity, have to explain everything, and leave no threads hanging.
Definitely. I love that. Yeah, I feel like this is kind of a question that gets brought up a lot, is just, you know, what about Lucha Underground makes it different from WWE? And there are so many ways to answer it. I think the most succinct way is Lucha Underground is like superhero movies or comics, except instead of fight scenes, you get wrestling matches.
Yeah.
You pretty much nailed that. I agree. I think something I would tell people is that, to me, what makes Lucha Underground different is that it's fun. And I mean, you know what I mean? I think it's fun, and that's what it's meant to be. Like, we don't try to, like, we want the audience to come in and get engaged and get lost in it and have fun and take a ride with the characters and believe that that a man that's a dragon was actually a dragon 1,000 years ago, and believe that there's a time traveler, and believe that there's a place called Slam Town or something like that. You know, like, I think that's the fun part, and I think that's what I would kind of tell people, is it gives you a chance to kind of get lost and forget everything. Whereas I sometimes, you know, having somebody come out and talk for 25 minutes at the beginning of a night at 6, you know, says you're about to sit down with your family and turn on the TV, and someone talks for 25 minutes. And they basically get out that there's a match tonight. It's not really fun to me. So I think that's good. I think the other thing about Lucha, we try to.
Well, and plus, I also think that with the WWE, a lot of the time they're trying to tell us, like, it's like they're holding up cue cards, like laugh now, like they're trying to tell us what to laugh at. It's like if they could have a laugh track, they would, because they're going out of their way to do comedic segments. Whereas with you guys get comedy in a way that isn't blatant. Like, to me, and I know to John for sure, the death of Mr. Sisko is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in wrestling.
Yes.
But at the same time, I don't know if that was even necessarily intended to be comedic. It was just funny.
Well, yeah. I mean, we thought it was funny. I mean, I mean, to me, that's sort of the funny thing about wrestling, is like, tragedy in wrestling is funny. Like, right. You know, when Miss Elizabeth at her wedding after party gets a cobra snake as one of her gifts, if that were real life, that would be pretty tragic, that someone ruined their wedding reception and put a lethal snake in a gift. But to the audience, I'm sure to little kids, it might have been like, oh my God, but to us, it's hilarious. And so, right. You know, I think sometimes WWE misses the mark a little bit, because sometimes they embrace that they're theater of the absurd, and sometimes they try to take themselves too seriously, where we know this is absurd. It's absurd. It's all absurd. But within
and lean into it, and I love that.
But within the absurdity, there's great stuff. And
you know what? We even got a $2 super chat from Cliff Mall. Ricky Mandel in the pictures. Ricky Mandel's reaction to Dario Cueto giving him those photos was comedic gold.
Yes. And we have not forgotten that story, just so people know.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah. we don't forget any story ever. Trust us. We will never. I know people worried about story. We will never forget any story. And one other thing I'll say very quickly, I know we're taking a lot of time, is that the other reason I think people should watch is we feel like on Lucha Underground, you can get invested in any character, and we will do that character right.
Right.
You know, even if they're not winning every match, there's not people on there just to lose. We find a reason to have everybody.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. All right. Third question from chat. It's from Iconic Player 1. And he wants to know, who is the locker room leader at Lucha Underground?
Ooh, I like that one.
Chris DeJoseph.
There you go.
I would probably say John.
Yes.
I think Johnny Mundo's the leader here.
Yes.
And
You know John loves to hear that. Good Lord.
Yeah, you know, when it comes down to it, I mean, he has been in the game for the longest. He, you know, it comes down. It's John's show, you know, and I think he has the respect of the guys in the locker room. I think he has the respect of everybody around him, and he comes to meetings. He offers his input and other people's stuff, and I think you know, the best part is I think, you know, I think he's definitely the leader of the locker room, 100%.
Yeah, Johnny Mundo I totally agree with that. And not only does he bring talent, a wealth of experience, he's also a super nice guy. And he also always wants to do what's best for the story, which is amazing. Right.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people.
I love that.
I mean, he is. His character is very selfish, but
I said selfless. To be
no. I know. I'm saying his character is very selfish.
Okay.
But the thing is it's not that he's selfless. He just wants the product to be good. He wants, where a lot of wrestlers, and I'm sure in any wrestling organization, you know, like WWE, I think WWE has trouble because there's a lot of wrestlers that just want to be in the spotlight and they don't really care about the bigger product, where Johnny cares.
Right. They just want to be made to look good, whereas Johnny is more willing to look like a fool if it means doing good business.
Yeah, he's awesome. I mean, he's amazing.
That's awesome. I gotta tell you, man,
that makes my day. I gotta tell you, I got the biggest smile on my face right now.
Yeah, I gotta say though, when I saw that question, the first name that came to my mind wasn't necessarily Johnny; it was Mill.
No, but I mean, I would say this. Mill is another guy who's he's a workforce, and he's the kind of guy who comes to work and says, "What can I do? Let me do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it." And I think that's the kind of attitude that's great to have around. But I think John is definitely the
leader type. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, fourth question from chat from Brandon Best. When it comes to narratives like the time traveling Aerostar stuff and maybe the immortal, the amulet stuff, how do you avoid writing yourselves into a corner?
Well, we don't. We've written ourselves into many corners.
Oh man!
But
then you find a way to write yourselves out of the corner, right?
Yes. I think much like someone getting hurt, like Angelico getting hurt, and we have to figure out a new plan, or someone else getting hurt, we have to figure out a new plan. I think sometimes the best creative ideas come out of no-win situations, or something that we're like, all right, where the hell do we go with this? And I think that listen, the audience will respond how the audience responds. I think we've done a lot of things in season 4 I think are great, and I think DJ think are great. The audience might be like, this is horrible. Okay? I don't know, but I do think it's a good storytelling challenge to sort of paint yourself into a corner and then think, well, I'm painted into a corner, but I'm going to, grow suction cup hands and walk on the ceiling and get out of this,
Nice. Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that, DJ?
No, I completely agree that we have painted ourselves in many, many corners. Yeah. It's usually Chris that gets us out of them.
Oh, jeez. Oh, that's great. All right. Well, hey, fifth and final question from chat from PW Gregory. And, I was thinking about asking this, but I'm glad somebody else wanted to ask it as well. Any plans currently to release any more Lucha Underground comics?
Oh. I have no idea. DJ?
Yeah, I don't either. That was a thing that we worked with the network originally. We were kind of rolling out season 2. So that's a tough one. I don't know. I think it would be great to do it. Just as of right now, there's no plan. Not to say that there wouldn't be. But, we're always trying to do different things and try different things, and I think that's the beauty of Lucha Underground. But those comics, they do play into the canon of the universe, I guess, and
we absolutely love the comics. We were reviewing the comics as they came out. Like next day, we would come on here and we would go pain by pain and talk about what was going on and what implications that had for the storylines. And I loved that experience and kind of having that sort of extension of the Luchaverse outside of just the TV show.
I will give one little tidbit out about season 4 is that there will be a little callback to something that happens in the comics in the season. So
nice.
If you read the comics, that's a cool thing for you to see.
Interesting.
Awesome.
Look forward to that.
Definitely. All right, guys. I don't really have anything to talk about. Anything else that you guys want to talk about, or anything like that? John, any of you guys, anything?
No, I'm good, man. Nothing more for me to ask or wonder about. I feel like this is a wonderful interview. I thank you both so much for your time, for coming on here. I mean, obviously, we love Lucha Underground. It's the best thing going today. And these insights were incredible. And as the ultimate Johnny Mundo nerd, I mean, my day is made. So, I'm gonna go on hot. So yeah, that was great, guys. Thank you so much.
Oh, are we gone?
No.
We're still live. We're good.
Can I give a couple quick shout outs and plugs?
Absolutely, please do.
Okay, very quickly. I want to say I love everyone we work with at Lucha, and the agents are amazing. Chavo, Vampiro, Paul, Matt Stryker is amazing, and of course Eric Van Wagenen for running the ship, and Skip for making such amazing vignettes, and really everyone is so great. I don't know, DJ, did you have anything else? I also have. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to let you finish up, and then.
Okay. I was just going to do 2 cheap plugs, if that's possible.
Go for it.
Okay, everyone go see the movie Truth or Dare, Blumhouse's Truth or Dare, which opens on April 13th in theaters nationwide. I was a co-writer of that, and also. You guys credited, or Ashton, you credited Eric Van Wagenen as the showrunner of Big Brother. That's not actually true. I'm EP of Big Brother. DJ works on that show, and Big Brother 20 returns this summer on CBS.
Oh, nice.
DJ?
Again, I guess the same. I would like to give a shout out to everybody. I love working with Chris. It's been amazing getting to work through the show. I love everybody that works on the show, from the camera people to Quinn, our director. Just a tremendous thing. You won't see any kind of action like that on any other wrestling show in the world, in my opinion. And I also like to plug that we are going to give away 2 tickets to this weekend's Lucha Underground tapings. I guess if you listen to this podcast, I've been taking down notes here and there and questions on Twitter. And if you pay attention and you can answer them, you will have an opportunity to win 2 tickets this weekend to not only Friday night show, but Saturday night's final show of the tapings. And I hope everybody does that. And I am really, 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 really thankful for you guys for talking about Lucha Underground, for getting it out there,
yes,
for being supportive of the show. And I just enjoy listening to what you guys have to say every week. To me, that's my Lucha Underground, and I think we like Chris and I also talk about that. We love all the people who are out there that are talking about Lucha Underground on their podcasts. I think it's a fun community, and I know everybody takes jabs at each other and stuff like that, but that's all part of being of the fun of it. And I can't wait to hear John say my favorite lines in the world on podcasts, and I'm waiting for it. And I'll slowly mark out here by myself when he does that.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for having us on. We love listening to your podcast. We love all the Lucha Underground support from the different podcasts. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for giving us your time today. I know that you guys are extremely busy, and I know DJ Chris already told us you're still at the temple, right?
Yeah. I'm here right now. Yeah. But that's not.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's. So we appreciate you guys giving us your time. We appreciate this interview. Hell, you guys reached out to us for this interview, so that just amazing to show up in the Twitter DMs like, hey, can we do an interview? And it was like, hell yes. Like, why would we say no to that? And I've absolutely hour and 45 minutes that we've spent talking to you guys. It's been great. So now, I mean, DJ mentioned it. I'm going to shut up because John has an outro to do.
Time to give them what they came for. Guys, this has been our Lucha Underground interview. So privileged to have done this. So honored to have done this. Clearly two amazing guys and Chris and DJ here. So with that said, this has been our interview. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my co-owner commentary Ashton. This was Chris. This was DJ. We talked about the best wrestling product on the freaking planet, Lucha Underground, Season 4. Expect it to come, you know, early summer, it sounds like. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for all updates on that. So, guys, normally I would do the typical outro stuff. You already know all our stuff in the description box, but I do want to give shout-outs here to Roach and DeJoseph. You can follow them both on Twitter. Links to their Twitters are in the description box. They already did their plugs before my little outro here.
And remember, especially because Chris DJ is going to be doing the ticket giveaway, so be sure to stay tuned. Keep your eyes peeled on his channel, especially because he's going to be doing the giveaway.
Absolutely. The giveaway is happening, guys. Like I said in my big Twitter thread about it, who will the Aztec gods smile upon? Who will be favored to get those 2 tickets for the final set of tapings for Season 4? The ultimate unique opportunity from where I sit. And guys, you already know about all the media we're associated with, Twitter, the Facebook, everything else. I'm not going to waste your time with that. I'm too pumped up from doing this. This is absolutely surreal. So you guys will see us again for our NXT review. That'll be coming later tonight, as we'll talk about, of course, Andrade, Cien Almas, and Aleister Black having their contract signing for NXT TakeOver New Orleans, and we'll also be covering the continuation of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. I want to thank everybody from Chris and DJ to all of you fans that showed up to listen to this. This was just positively incredible. My mind's still blown that this happened. And yeah, just thank you guys again so much for your time. Love all of you guys. This is what wrestling's all about. And until then, tune in and peace out.